Hello, my name is Josephine Altman, and for the Project WET presentation, I will be focusing on the long haul activity. Some background information. Students often only understand one way of life, which is their way of life, and it's really important that we as educators teach students about many different cultures and many different countries and many different ways of life so that they are more educated on matters concerning the environment and humanity and how those two interconnect, because the environment is really important all around the world, and how the world uses the environment is very different, and it's important for students to understand different ways people live. This is a great activity for students to learn to work together and how important it is for teamwork. This is also a great activity if your school doesn't offer a lot of time for you to teach science and social studies, because that isn't always the top priority in most schools or in many schools, because this activity combines the both, so you're teaching both science and social studies at the same time. This also helps students learn more about the importance of water and how crucial it is to people all around the world, because most students you'll be teaching have water available to them at all times, and I think a lot of people take it for granted. So that's a great way to use this activity too. So the long haul activity will help students understand the importance of water, how to work together as a team, and how water is used differently in different nations. I chose the grade level 5th grade because I think this is a great activity for older students, because they'll be able to connect more with the activity and have a better understanding of history and the way the world works, and they'll just be able to see themselves in other students or as other children in different nations. The objectives are to understand the volume of water, different volumes of water, appreciate the difference between developed nations and developing nations, and then develop an understanding of how and why water is used differently around the world. And the subject areas I chose were history, math, and environmental science, and as I teach this activity, you will be able to see how those three subjects interconnect. Okay, hi class. Today we will be focusing on the long haul activity. In most parts of America, we always have water available to us. In our own school, we always have water available to us. At the sink, at the drinking fountain, you guys have bathrooms with running water available to you at all times. And this is not the case in all schools or in all homes or countries around the world. Water can be a really scarce resource for a lot of people. Today we're going to learn about how much water it takes to run a nation or to have enough water to survive, and how much work it can take to get that water you need to survive to your life. We're also going to look at how your lives differ from children in developing nations. So for part 1, I would like all of you to get out your science notebooks. And I want you to really think about these questions and answer them in your notebooks. Where do you get water, and where does it come from? So where do you get your water? And where does that water even come from? And then what chores do you guys do around the house on a daily basis? You guys might not have typical chores, but do you guys help out your parents around the house in different ways? And can you write down a list of what you do to help out? All right. Okay, so there are different chores all around the world. And today we're going to focus on the chore of water, which I know many of you probably are thinking, oh, that's a chore? Well, it is in some parts of the world. In our own homes, we get water in many different ways. We can get it from the bathtub, we can get it from the sink, we can get it outside at the hose, and it comes from our pipes, because we have, as a nation, people who have built water connections under the cities and under roads so that each house has water. And in houses that aren't in towns, they have wells digged up, and then the water comes from the ground up into their house for their sinks and their bathtubs and their showers. And that's not always the case in many other places of the world. In many places of the world, Water is not available at the turn of a tap, and it is hauled by students your age, or women and children mostly. Long gallons of water are hauled back from where they get their water to their homes, which is very different from the just turning on the tap. Today we're going to learn about what it means to get that water and how hard it can be and how much water it takes to even run one little home. So we are going to be playing the water hauling game. So I've split you guys up into 2 different teams. I did it randomly, so no fighting. Each team is going to get 2-gallon buckets. And you guys are going to turn on the water and you guys are going to fill it up. And then there's a garbage can at the end, and each team has a garbage can, and you're going to dump your water into the bucket. And then you have to run back and give the bucket to the next person on your team, and they have to turn on the spout and fill up their bucket and dump it into the garbage can. And the first team to fill up their garbage can wins. Now, before we start, I want you guys to guess how many trips you will have to take to fill up the garbage can. All right, are you guys ready? Go. And then students will complete the activity and fill up, running and trying to fill up the garbage can as fast as they can. So, how did you guys like the activity? Did you guys have fun? I want you guys to think about how you felt when you were completing that activity. Was it hard? It was a little difficult because those water, that can be really heavy for you guys to carry and to dump into the garbage can. Were you guys right in your prediction of how many it would take to fill it up? Was it more? Was it less? Yeah, there are many. Some of you thought it would be way less and some of you thought it would be way more. And it's really hard to predict how many buckets will fill up one garbage can. So there are many ways students have gotten water to their house in the past. As we can see on the pictures on the screen, children have to fill up in different countries huge buckets of water and then carry it home, which could be, however far away, it could be 6 hours to get home from the watering area to bring this water back to their home. Do you think there's any other ways that students carried water in the past, or children carried water in the past? I bet some people did use, back when horses were used in America, I bet some people had buggies and put water in the back of their buggies to bring it home. We also can buy water from the store. Yeah, we can do that here in America. Do you think there's a reason that developed countries use more water than developing countries? That is a really good point. Yes, in developing countries, they can't just turn on a spout and have water. So they're not going to use as much because water isn't as available to them. And it's not as easy to get. And if it's not easy, a lot of people don't use as much. How would you feel if you had to haul water every single day? Yeah, it would be really hard because you spend a lot of your time doing that, 6 hours a day. And then you won't have time to do other free things, especially when we think back to our chore list. You guys have other chores to do on top of just getting the water too. Do you guys think you would use the same amount you use now? I know I wouldn't. I know I would not be taking long showers if I had to carry all my water back with me. So that's just something to think about. Okay, so that was the long haul activity. Some modifications I make are to allow for students with mobility disabilities and to have them participate. I would have students line up and we would pass water back over our heads, so sitting down, and see how much water they have in the end, which is just another way to do the activity, but without running or walking. So that would be a good way to have students participate. I could also have students research different countries and see how different countries get their water, because there's many different countries around the world and different ways that they get their water. And I think it'd be really interesting for students to have a lot more information about that and share it with the class. I could change the size of the buckets to fit the size of the children. So using gallon buckets for first graders probably wouldn't work. so I would make them smaller. I would also have children answer a list of questions about their water usage before the activity. So how often do you shower? How much water do you drink in a day? Do you wash your hands? How much water does your mom use when cooking? And I would before the activity and then give them back after the activity and see what they think about that. Some extensions I might use are to have students research and create their own systems for carrying water because they've seen children carrying water on their heads. And maybe it'd be a good way to incorporate STEM into it too by them creating and building. So that'd be a good way. Have students research water issues in America. So America isn't perfect with their water either, and I think it's really important for students to understand that too, that even developed nations have problems, such as in Flint, Michigan. So I would teach students, another good extension would be to teach students about the different uses of water by pretending that the garbage can is a fire and they have to put out the fire. And so they could do a water brigade, which is, I'm sure some students would have seen that on TV where they pass water along in the bucket, stand in a line. And I think it'd just be a good way to show teamwork and show how difficult it would be without the fire department to put out a fire. I could also bring in different speakers. So having someone who lived in a developing country and experienced this water shortage would be a great first resource for the children to learn from. And I think it'd also be interesting to have people who work for the municipal water department in our county to come in and talk to the children about how they get their water and what it means and how their water is used by them. So those are just some ideas. I hope you enjoyed the long haul activity, and thank you.